Hello, colleagues and friends. Thank you for joining me today. Fernando Hetiadra here, and I'm very excited to begin this interesting journey ahead of us, exploring about how trauma-informed coaching competencies could be very well integrated into our practice, enabling us to expand what we do with our clients. And I would like to commend all of you being here because you are committed for creating transformation in your clients, and you truly value professional development. And in this case, especially, I see that you value making history and stepping into the future. So thank you for joining me to discuss about this pioneering framework that I'm about to share with you today. And let's dive in. So as you notice, seeing questions. Okay, I love it. All right. Um, so it's a very exciting journey, and as you may be aware, at Ignite Global, we are truly passionate about bringing our community together, co-creating growth, expansion. And last year, we conducted 12 master classes focusing on mastery of professional coaching. And I was wondering, what are we going to do for 2026? So we thought we will introduce to you this comprehensive trauma-informed coaching competency framework. And a disclaimer to begin with, having a good knowledge about the trauma-informed coaching competencies will help you to navigate your coaching sessions with a heightened awareness and with a heightened awareness of how you work with your client, at the same time the ethical guidelines, and then also how to refer your clients to clinicians and other professionals as it is necessary. At the same time, however, this series of lectures do not provide you with a qualification to identify yourself as a trauma-informed coach or practice as a trauma-informed coach. The reason being, it requires a much longer, thorough learning experience, and then also, more importantly, applying what you learn about trauma-informed coaching competency and receive feedback, receive supervision before you do that, as trauma-informed care can easily cross boundaries with um, clinical practices like psychotherapy, for an example. Therefore, I invite all of you to engage with openness in a way that it will expand your practice and it will be very beneficial to both your clients and yourself. So let us dive into this session today. As you have noticed, the topic for our session today, or if not, this entire lecture series is grounded under the topic how trauma informs love. How trauma informs love. And very briefly sharing with you, if you have been in my network, if you have co-created with me, you know how passionate I'm about bringing the awareness of trauma to the world, especially to reflective practitioners. The reason why I decided to name this lecture series as How Trauma Informs Love is because my own journey. As a child and as an adolescent, even as an adult, I have had many challenging, difficult, and rightfully traumatic experiences. And before I became aware of the depth of trauma and truly understanding trauma from a higher perspective, I thought that trauma is something that has broken me, and that's something that is not serving me. The more I became aware of trauma, the more I was able to look deep within myself, reprocess and heal. I noticed that it these understandings and these healing processes led me in the direction of ta tapping into my heart, tapping into true essence of who I am. And what I have found out is that my true essence is truly love. Therefore, I decided to name this series as How Trauma Informs Love. So I'm very, very excited to walk you through this path. And I hope this time that you spend with me, which I'm so very grateful and feel very honored about, at the same time will also provide you with value, that you will be able to bring some of the nuances, insights, into your practice tangibly. And most importantly, not only into your practice, but also to yourself, how you would approach yourself, your experiences, and your current life. And then I believe you will be able to also extend it to people, those who you love. So with that, let's begin. Today's lecture begins as with the topic trauma as human experience. Trauma as human experience. You will notice that if you have come across individuals who may have had traumatic experiences, unless it is concurrent, unless it is something that they want to console, very often people do not want to talk about trauma. Very often people do not even know that they have had traumatic experiences and that those experiences may be affecting them in their current life, their relationships, and their progress. So it's really important to understand trauma as a human experience. And I believe that at the end of this session, this sentence will make even more sense. Let's dive in. So I must mention to you that, of course, this lecture series is going to have references to themes such as challenging experiences, adversities, and trauma. So if you are a sensitive person, please engage with caution. Continuing on, make a note. Uh, I may invite you to interact with me and share some of your insights. And at the moment, you will notice that you're all muted. But if you raise your hand digitally, I'll be more than happy to invite you to speak. And also, when you speak, please keep it concise so that way we can maximize uh, this time. And also, if you have any questions, they are most welcome through the chat room so that I will be more than happy to address them as time permits. And also, the link for attendance for your certification will be provided via Zoom chat later during the session. And also, if you would like to take note, keep in mind that these slides will be available to all of you, those who have registered to this series via our e-learning platform, which is Awaken Mind Guide, both the recording of the video as well as the slides, which you will be able to download later. All right. So let's begin with this very interesting GIF, this animation that we are going to watch. Um, if I show you this animation, I would like to invite you to think about what is happening in this situation. What is happening in this situation? So is there anyone who would like to raise your hand and come forward to answer this question potentially? Anyone? All right, we have Ramonda. Let me ask you to unmute. Over to you, Ramonda.
Hi, everyone. It's such a funny video. It looks like a cat had trauma over cucumber.
It is, yeah. It looks like, right? Any further insights to that, Ramonda?
Like it's I know it's like a projection to the cucumber, and repetitive behavior, like reaction to.
Ah, that's absolutely accurate. Absolutely accurate. Thank you, Ramonda. And I also see Lisa raised your hand. Huh? Oh, sorry. Maybe I missed it. All right. I think I just saw one of you raising your hand. Is it Tulika? Tulika, would you like to? Okay. Give me a second. Okay, Tulika, over to you.
Yeah, it seems like it's an instinctive reaction to the cucumber. And I wonder if it's like a hard-coded reaction in cats because they're afraid of snakes, probably. Um, so anything cylindrical kind of evokes that reaction, and it seems involuntary. It's not something that they can control.
Mm. Thank you, Tulika. I think you provided us a further exploration, further explanation to what Raimonda started. And I saw that there were a few other colleagues who were also interested to share your insights and rest assured that I'd love to hear from you. Let's hear from Amanda as well. Hi, Amanda. Great to see you. Okay, there you are. You can speak now.
I saw the cucumber, but I didn't connect the cucumber with the fright at all. I saw the cat eating and then assumed something else was happening in the background, because there's no sound, that scared the cat away. Because when I looked, I saw the cucumber seemed already to be present, and the cat went to eat. So it's funny. We all interpret and see differently. I don't know.
It's the same way. Yeah. We all think in different ways. And interesting. It's indeed an interesting situation. Now, let me ask Tulika, Amanda, all of you added some thoughts around this, and also Raimonda. So I would like to clarify this situation a little bit. So your thought process around that the cat thought or cat's nervous system processed that cucumber potentially as a snake is absolutely accurate. Absolutely accurate. And in fact, it's exactly what is happening even if you look at it from a scientific perspective. Obviously, the reason being the cucumber has the shape of a snake, and then cat glances it and then gets ejected from its place. In fact, you were right when you said that it is an involuntary muscle reflex, Tulika. Absolutely accurate. So what really happened was the cat's sensory perception, the eyes recognized that this shape, and interestingly, this cat could be from, let's say, North America. There are some parts of Earth that there are no snakes whatsoever, especially in North America, certain parts. Now, doesn't matter whether this cat has seen a snake before, whether the cat has experienced a traumatic event with the snake. Many cats, if not all cats potentially, have the same reflex, the same response when they see that shape. So isn't that interesting? The cat hasn't really had any trauma with the snake, but it still has the ability to eject itself from its place. Now, I was explaining the process, right? So cat saw it. Cat's brain, in this case specifically, amygdala recognized it. So amygdala is a fight and flight response center. It's very important for our survival. When amygdala is indicating that there's a danger, then we would either fight it, or flight it. We will run away from it. Now that happened, but cat didn't really necessarily have any time to cognitively, when we say cognitively, thinking, making connections, making an understanding. Before that understanding happened, the cat was ejected from its place. That means the amygdala already told our central nervous system to eject us using using the cat's motor control. Right. So it was not something that cat thought and did, you noticed. And that's why I saw in the chat room, one of you mentioned, it is instinctual. I think that's a great word to use in this sense, instinctual. So now what we know about this cat is the cat got ejected from its place the moment it saw the shape of the snake. Now, if we are really to deeply look at this situation, it's not this cat that we are really looking at. We are looking at the generations and generations of this cat. Now, somewhere along the evolution of this cat, many other cats, the great ancestors of this cat, were in the jungle, crawling through, hunting, playing around. And there appeared a snake and bit this ancestral cat. And then when that happened, the cat was in excruciating pain. And lucky for cat, it was able to get itself to safety. And it survived, but remembered this experience. Cat could remember cognitively, in a way, thinking brain could remember this. It became a memory. Great. And this didn't happen to just only that one ancestral cat. This could have happened to so many other cats. So at the same time, while that cat remembered this experience, remembered in the memory, there was also something collectively happening among those cats who experienced this difficulty. Now, that was nothing to do with the thinking of the cat. That was something to do more with the intelligence of the cat's body, an intelligence that goes beyond our conscious intelligence, our cognitive intelligence, more of our body's intelligence, somehow decided This information is important. It was extremely painful. The cat almost didn't survive. Therefore, let's encode this information within the cat's body in a way that it can be passed on to its offsprings, so that those offsprings can be a little bit safer if they came across a snake. So now that brings us back to this image we saw today. That's how this cat got itself ejected from its place. Now, I mentioned the intelligence of the body thought we need to save this information in the body. It also needs to be passed on to the offsprings. So where do we store this information? As you know, when two cats, mother cat, father cat, come together, they procreate. The key thing that they share from them to the next generation is their DNA through their eggs. So this natural intelligence that governs our body, in that case, cat's body, an entire cat species, decided to store that information in the DNA. So that DNA will pass it on to the next generation and to the next generation and to the next generation. And so we saw that this cat has this specific involuntary behavior. And you will see this around in other cats as well, for sure. And even other animals, you will see the same behavior. So now this brings us to an important aspect that I mentioned at the very beginning. Trauma informs love. Trauma informs love. Now, of course, this cat got ejected from its place. It might even hit a wall. It might even break a limb. So it seemed like painful. When the cat gets ejected, it feels like painful. It feels like it was frightened. It indeed was. So when we are afraid of something, when it is something challenging, when something is painful, our brain, our thinking will naturally make us feel like it's not a good thing. Or rather, it's even a bad thing, for an example. We might feel like that for a moment. But if you really go back to the natural intelligence in the forest, the natural intelligence didn't think the biting of the snake is painful. Therefore, let's embody this kind of pain, this kind of reaction into the offspring so that it can suffer. That was not the case. What did it really want to do? It thought, if this intelligence thought, if we could instill this information in the DNA and pass it on to the offsprings, the offsprings will be a little bit safer. And that's exactly what we saw in that situation today, in that video that we watched. If it was actual snake, snakes are very fast. Maybe that cat is already dead. But because the cat has this involuntary muscle reflex, it could get saved in that situation. So you are starting to notice, although primarily when something strong, something challenging happens to us, we feel like it's painful. We feel that it is bad. And sometimes, as you know, the trauma shows up again when there are triggers. And when the trigger shows up, when we feel uncomfortable, sometimes scared, sometimes very painful, it's natural for us to think about this pain, this challenge as a bad thing. But if you really come to think of it, if you really come to look at our universe that we live in, specifically this beautiful blue planet that we live in, right now, we feel safe in this environment. The reason being, we live in urban cities, it's comfortable, and it's safe most of the time. So we kind of have a sense of safety. But think about yourself some years ago, right? Some hundreds years ago, 200 years ago, the time that we were hunter-gatherers. We were constantly exposed to danger. As we were exposed to danger, it was absolutely very important that we had coping mechanisms not to be consumed by the danger that was around us. So I'm starting to notice that when a traumatic moment is recalled through a trigger, it is actually telling us to get ourselves to safety as fast as possible. It's telling us a very important message, which is to survive. So if you really come to think of it, trauma is not necessarily a bad thing in that sense. It's rather the love of the natural intelligence, which is which is the intention being to continue our survival, continue our evolution. It placed that information in our DNA so that when we are exposed to the threat or the danger, that we can very quickly get ourselves to safety, like the cat is getting ejected from that place. So we start to recognize that the cats, those uh, ancestral cats, their natural intelligence stored that information in their DNA. They did not want to do something bad. They did not want to hurt the offsprings. Rather, they wanted to save the offsprings. And that came from a place of deeper intelligence, which is love, if you notice. So when we look at the natural intelligence that governs us, the natural intelligence wants us to survive. And that potentially come from a place of love, if you really come to think of it. So when you look at trauma, then it's a very interesting conundrum, isn't it? Trauma is almost like the coin. One side is the pain, the other side is the pleasure. And as we human beings living on this hostile planet, we know that we need to have both sides. If we didn't have pain in this existence, we wouldn't survive, because we don't know pain. So for an example, I will step out of this 20th floor and I will fall down and die because I do not have fear. I do not want to survive. So the pain is absolutely required for us to be able to continue to survive. Pain is absolutely important. But imagine a universe, imagine a planet, there was only pain, then the planet, the beings, the living beings will not continue. Why? Because why should a living being live in pain? It needs to have the other conundrum, which is pleasure, being able to feel the love, being able to have a friendship, have a mother, have a partner, experience beauty of the world, enjoy a taste of the mango, enjoy the beautiful beauty of the mountain. So when we are able to recognize that life sustains in this form only when there is pain and pleasure. Very often we put ourselves into different dimensions. We live in 3 dimension. And then we also have time playing through us, another type of dimension. And you start to recognize pain and pleasure is also a type of dimension that we live, whether we like it or not. Actually, because there is pain and pleasure, there is survival, there is continuation. So I invite all of us to deeply think about this cat's experience and deeply think about the love that governs us, the intention to continue to survive, the living beings, intention to continue to survive comes from a place of love. And now this says trauma informs love. We're talking about human love here. So therefore, I would like to bring a very simple, another example to see what's happening in the cat's body is happening in us as human beings as well. So I would like to bring your attention to the Holocaust memorial. This image, Holocaust, one of the images from the Holocaust memorial. And I would like to talk to you, I would like to introduce to you very briefly about the children of Holocaust survivors, children of Holocaust survivors. And when Dr. Rachel Yehuda was studying the Holocaust survivors, and especially the second generation, their children, she found something very interesting. When she synthesized their DNA, the children's DNA, the children of Holocaust survivors, she found out that this specific gene, FKBP5 gene, has had predominantly a different expression in comparison to control groups. She found out that the methylation of the FKBP5 gene was different in comparison to others who have not experienced trauma. The difference is really interesting. Now, what this specific gene expression does is, when we come across a threat or danger, as you are aware, we release many neural chemicals into our body that enables us to speed up our heart, to accelerate our motor control, In this case, maybe we need to fight or we need to flight. And in order to do that, we need to have certain neurochemicals in our body. Excuse me. So what happens is when these neurochemicals are released, because this is a processing of a threat, recognizing of a threat. Once the threat is removed, those neurochemicals get reuptaken, taken back into the specific places in the body where they are stored. In this case, vesicles in our neurons. They go back into the neurons so that we can feel regulated again. So for an example, when we came across a danger, our body released cortisol in our body, one of the neurochemicals very important for us to take action swiftly. Now, after an acceptable period of time, when the danger is removed from the vicinity or our field, then cortisol is absorbed back, and then other neurochemicals are released into our body in order for us to feel secure and safe, regulated. Now, when FKBP5 gene expression changed, one of the things that body literally does is not absorbing back cortisol back into the neurons. The reason being, now you're starting to see. So when atrocious trauma happened to their parents, their DNA expression recognized. If I quickly became regulated, right, this natural intelligence that governs us, recognized if I regulated my host, in case this Holocaust survivors, they might be endangered again. They might be exposed to a threat again. They might not survive. Therefore, it not only thought to changing that gene expression, but they also thought, let's pass it on to the children in this case. So, of course, when we look at the children, you would notice when there's a threat present, the children of Holocaust survivors, they would suffer longer. They would feel fear longer. They will act in fight and flight response longer. They will be more cautious. Of course, at once, if you look at it plainly, we notice it's painful. It's something that is that make them suffer longer. But on the other hand side, if you really come to think of it, the intention is not to make them suffer longer. The intention is to give them enough time to be able to get them to survival. Because our natural intelligence understood that these parents have been through atrocious trauma. Therefore, how can we, through the gene expression, make the offsprings, if not in this case, the children, a little bit safer? Once again, if you come to think of it, the trauma informed love. It did not inform pain. It did not inform a difficult life. Instead, it informed love because it wanted these children to continue to survive so that their children can continue to survive. So what the body says when there's an alert for long detecting danger, so this specific gene expression enables them to have this alert state over a long period of time because of not that it wanted this, our gene expression wanted them to suffer, rather to be safe, get them to self to safety. So there you are, how trauma informs love. It's seen across the nature. And not only just in the nature, in terms of living beings, moving living beings, but also even if you look at the trees, have the same mechanism. Do you know that? So for an example, under the soil, all trees, when they're in an ecosystem, they're all connected through mycelium. Do you know that when one tree is uh, disturbed, maybe caught, hurt, something like that, the mycelium can send this information to other trees. The trees remember this experience. Trees remember who did that. So this is scientific, colleagues. When this person come back, when the mechanical sounds come back, all the trees start to also share this information that something could happen. So even the trees could remember what happens in their environment, especially in this case, difficult experiences, challenging experiences, not because it wanted the trees to be hurt, but because in some way, if the trees could be saved. Now, when we saved, do you know that the mycelium network and the intelligence of the trees could redirect nutritions, water into a specific tree? Why? Because it intends to protect, safeguard, and enable that specific tree to survive. So we are starting to recognize the challenging experiences, difficult experiences are necessary for us to be able to continue to survive, because that is the conundrum that we live in, the other dimension that we live in, pain and pleasure between these two. Therefore, in order for us to survive in this space, it's important that we have a mechanism called trauma, so that it enables our safety. It reminds us danger. It tells us what to do, how to cope up with danger. And if there was no trauma in the world, in this planet, we wouldn't be here to begin with. So you are starting to recognize in that case, trauma is part of human condition. Trauma is being part of human. If not, trauma is being part of being alive, not just only for human beings, animals, trees, and many other systems that sometimes we don't even think about. Now, I would like to develop this idea with more stories, more experiments. I would like to introduce to you the strange situation procedure, which was a controlled experiment conducted by Mary Annisworth. And she conducted this really intriguing experiment based on John Bowlby. I think many of you are aware, John Bowlby, the person who introduced, the scientist who introduced the attachment theory. So if you are unaware of attachment theory, you will gain a very brief introduction today, and I hope it will make you curious to continue to learn. So I'm going to share with you part of this experiment in a video. So let us all watch the video first to begin with. I want to make sure I'm sharing the sound because this video has sound. Okay, so let's watch what Mary Annisworth did in this interesting experiment.
This experiment, which I watched through a two-way mirror, is designed to gauge how secure is the crucial relationship between mother and child.
Okay, this bunny is going to go here, and that bunny will be on top.
The value of the test has been established in studies that would watch a child, 1-year-old, and then follow it up and interview them about their relationships to their parents when they were 21 years old. So we're quite confident in the long-term significance of this relationship.
Peter, that's Peter.
After several minutes' play, the mother is signaled to leave the room.
Sweetie, I'll be back in 1 minute, okay? I'll get you back in 1 minute.
It's upsetting for you. Shame, I feel. But she'll survive. The key moment in the experiment is the child's reaction to her mother's return.
Hi.
The important clue is whether the baby's able to become calmed down by the contact with the mother and get back to play. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes. But you see, when the mother was out, she was only interested in the mother, no interest in the toys. Now she has a contact with the mother. She's beginning to show a little interest in the environment, and shortly she'll be right back with the toys where we started.
So you would call this a secure one?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so did you hear what they called? They called this is the secure attachment style. So let's debrief a little bit about this situation. Let's try to speculate about what it may be the relationship between the primary caregiver, in this case the mother, and the child. So as you notice, when the mother comes back, the child really feel the comfort in the mother's presence. And you can clearly notice that once the mother comes back, the child feels safety. And then moment later, you will notice the child is able to go back to the activities that they were doing, playing in this case. The reason being, we believe that the mother and the child have a the child has developed trust in the mother. That means when the child was in a situation that they felt like they were left alone, when they asked for help, maybe when they cried, the mother was available to the child very quickly. So, and this has happened repeatedly over and over again. So the child has built trust that when the child asks for help, the mother will show up, which mother did. So therefore, the child demonstrated the secure attachment type. It's very, very evident in this video as we saw. Now we are going to change, now according to this experiment, now we are going to change what is happening in the room a little bit. And let's observe it.
Much happier.
Goes to the door following her. Now, we sent the mother right back in, but the point here is not to distress the baby. We're just trying to challenge it. The baby puts her hands to her face in a sad expression, puts her face down. When she picks her up, she keeps her head down, her arms out, and then she sits in the chair holding the baby. The baby's still sullen. He's low-keyed.
So you would call this insecure
yes,
attachment?
Insecure. He's avoidant. He's not engaging her, and the reunion's not effective. And it's important to remember here that the thing that upset him was her absence. Her return should be the solution to his problem. Now this.
All right. So there,
a sad expression.
you notice.
She said, arms out. The baby's still
Insecure attachment.
Insecure. He's avoidant. Reunion's not effective. The thing that upsets return should be the solution to his. It's another pattern that we see. This.
All right. So if you notice in this case, however, another child and a mother, when the mother came back to the room, the very thing the child is seeking did not comfort the child. So there you heard the word avoidant attachment style. It's an anxious type of attachment, avoidant attachment style. Now, later, when these psychologists started understanding about the behavior of the parent, the primary caregiver, and the behavior of the child, very often children who behaved this way, those who were avoidant towards the parent, not wanting to go back to them, embrace them, just rather be reluctant to really engage with them, they found out something very interesting. What they found out was that when the child in different situations seek for help, seek for the care, love, nurturing of the parent, primary caregiver in this case, they were not able to provide that. For whatever the reasons, maybe the mother is working, the child is kept with a nanny, maybe with a grandparent who might be unwell, who may have lots of other duties, and so on. So not in any way we look down upon the parent, but if you come to understand that from an open, inquisitive mind, we come to learn that when the child has not received the right type of nurturing and caring growing up over a long period of time, very often, one of the behaviors the child will develop is to become avoidant. They do not feel safe and secure when their parents are around. Obvious reason is that they no longer feel safe with them. They have not been able to establish trust with the parent. Now let's continue just one little bit more.
It's another pattern that we see in babies who are not good at using their mother as a secure base at home. This baby is also insecure. But you'll see, we get a look at his play before the separation. The mother's left. And when she returns, she picks him up. He can't calm down. He's still upset. She offers a toy to amuse him or to comfort him or to distract him, and he slaps it away. She offers another. He slaps it away. He's angry. We call these babies resistant or ambivalent because they both want her back and yet can't use the contact. We think that the difficulty is that in the past, when he sought comfort, she's been inconsistent as to whether she's available and responsive or not.
All right. So you noticed another classic type of attachment style being developed when the mother is not present, when the primary caregiver is not present to care for the child when they needed it the most. In this case, you notice that this is anxious ambivalent. So that indicates that they are disengaged from the mother and disengaged from the activity, and they are in a space of anxiousness. They go to the mother because there's a sense of security, but at the same time, they have not really developed that safety. And the reason why this child is anxious in this case, or why this behavior, is that you notice that the child is with the mother and throwing a bit of tantrums and indicating that child feels unsafe, but I do not trust you. The child isn't sure if mother left in the next minute, whether they will return or not. Because again of the past experiences similar to the previous case, because they haven't received the right type of care when they needed it the most. So in a very, very basic way, we look at attachment theory here. So we have noticed 3 different types of attachment styles. Now, when we say attachment style, you probably, if you have not been exposed to this theory before, you may be thinking it's happening then and there in that moment when the mother returns to the room. Now, what is really very interesting is that it's not the case. Now, this behavior the child is developing at the moment is going to ripple into the child's future as a teenager, as an adolescent, as a adult, as a parent, as a leader in every area of their life. Very often when we study attachment theory, we think that attachment is about the relationships, especially the romantic relationships. But the truth is it goes beyond just the romantic relationships. It interacts with all kinds of relationships. It interacts with how they regulate themselves, how they perceive the world. And very often you hear the individuals with secure attachment styles tend to have a more successful life because they are more trusting. It's easier for them to form relationships. They have a much positive outlook about the world, for an example. And on the other hand side, you hear people saying, it looks like this person is a perfect match for me. But I don't know why, when this person approach me, I run away. So you're starting to hear avoidant relationship style, right? You hear avoidant. You have a friend, or you may have tried to date someone who run away. It seems like perfect match. Everything is working perfect, but they run away when you start to approach them. And also, when we look at anxious attachment style, you also have seen people, they become very chaotic in relationships. It's very difficult for them to trust. It's very difficult for them to really bond with their partner in a regulated way. So they're very anxious because they are also, because of the patterns from childhood, they don't trust their partner. Now, let's take a step back from the story. Now, where's the trauma? What is the connection? Now, very often when we think about trauma, we think trauma is some challenging, overwhelming experience. This is what many of us understand. A challenging experience, overwhelming experience. And it happened at once. It was fast. That's one type of trauma. But in this case, repeatedly, chronically, not receiving the right care as a child is the trauma the child is experiencing. And usually we call it a childhood adversity, neglect. It can be physical neglect. It can also be emotional neglect as well. So in a prolonged time, when the child is neglected, this is also traumatic for the child. Now, because that repeated traumatic experience, child is starting to change their nervous system. And this happens even before the cognition happens. Some of the children can't even speak yet at this stage when this is happening. And that is going to decide how they are going to continue to grow as adults and how successful they are going to become in life. So then I think you're starting to recognize that trauma is necessary for our survival. And that's what we learned by looking at the children of Holocaust survivors. As we look at these children, based on how me, when I say these children, not those children who are in the experiment, but it includes you and me, based on how we received care by our primary caregivers during our childhood, determines how we are going to be in the world. So trauma is a human experience. In this case, this prolonged deprivation of care from the parents dictated how the child's life is going to be. Are they going to form attached, secure relationships? Are they going to be ambivalent in relationships? Or are they going to be anxious, avoidant in their relationships? So trauma as human experience, that means whether we like it or not, we do not have a direct saying up until what has happened to us and how we are behaving, feeling, thinking, operating relationally in our world, unless we recognize it. We have the right knowledge, we have the right intervention to seek help within as well as externally and reprocess those experiences and create the right type of secure attachment. If not, learn about your attachment and create the right type of connection with the partner or within the world that serve them, rather than succumb to the situations or the past. We could learn how can we continue to grow, how can we overcome these experiences that are embedded in our body and embedded in our mind, our script, for an example. So trauma as human experience, it's not something that we can disregard. At the beginning, I told you, some people don't even want to talk about trauma. I know some colleagues who told me when I announced this series, some of the colleagues told me, Fernando, I just cannot be in the space of trauma. I'm sick and tired of hearing about trauma. I'm something like that. So you would imagine that how we are sometimes deviating from trauma as if it is a bad thing, as if it is a negative thing. Does it affect us? Yes, it affects almost all of us. But at the same time, if you are informed, if you are aware and accept trauma as a human experience, we would be able to take right actions and create the right post-traumatic growth. So then in that case, you are starting to recognize why this series is named as Love Informs Trauma and Trauma as Human Experience. It's not something for us to look away. It's not something us to push away. Rather, it is something for us to embrace, recognize the love in it, and recognize it as a part of human experience between pain and pleasure as we live in this reality on this beautiful blue planet. And that enables you to find your true self. Maybe your true self is a more secure one. Your true self is someone who is very kind, someone who loves to be in relationships that are harmonious. So recognizing trauma as love and trauma as human experience provides us that opportunity to continue to evolve and grow and become who truly we are.